Hey guys, what's up? And welcome back to another weekly gaming podcast with Jay Buston and myself. Today we are going to be talking about something way more positive than last week. So, yay, positivity and stuff. We're going to be talking about a Nintendo game, specifically Splatoon 2.
Splatoon 2.
Which is very exciting for a lot of people. It will be an interesting discussion, probably, because I personally, and there's nothing against Nintendo, I'm just not that big of a Nintendo person overall. I have a few games I like to play. It's just mostly I don't really have a good way to explain. It's just not my thing. Jay, however, is a very big Nintendo person, so I'm going to let him take the reins of this and kind of tell you all the beauties and all the wonders and all the tragedies, if there are any, of this game, and I'll kind of ask questions if there are any to be had. But Jay's voice is so beautiful, I might just sit there and listen.
Well, thanks, Matt.
Good rebuttal.
Yeah. So Splatoon 2 has been out for about a week and a half now, come the time when this podcast comes out. And I've been having a ton of fun playing it. I've been streaming it. I've been playing it with friends. And there's a lot of basically, this is a game that, for the most part, and I have a couple gripes with it, but for the most part, they did what any good gaming company does, and that's take a game that came out that was good and make it better and release a sequel. You know, what worked about it, they made it, they either kept it the same if it worked fine, or they were like, we can make some minor tweaks here and there and improve things, and the things that, it was missing or it didn't work out as well, they changed and fixed and added new things.
All right, let me start with a very basic question I only played the demo of the first Splatoon, like when it dropped. They had that free, not really a demo,
the global test fire.
Yeah, the global test fire,
and that was Splatoon 1.
Correct, and that was the only time I've ever played it, and it seemed fun at that point. But that's just to give disclosure. That's the only really knowledge I have of this. So, for someone like me or anyone who doesn't know, what are the differences between Splatoon 1 and 2 outside of anything just, improved stability or better graphics or something like that? What are some actual noticeable differences?
Sure. Well, they because the game is on the Switch, first of all, which, again, is a portable console, an idea that I didn't think would be that big a deal, but I have actually made more use out of it than I thought. I don't really know how to describe it. It's kind of local multiplayer. Splatoon 1 didn't have any local multiplayer, which I thought was really missing.
Mm-hmm. Are you talking about couldn't couch play?
Yeah, we have a Wii U and I've got a couple controllers for it, but my wife and I couldn't play together except for this one really dumb head-to-head mode.
Gotcha.
Where it's basically like who could pop the most balloons, and it was just really stupid and a waste of time. So now Splatoon 2 is out, and so now you can take your Switch and, you can meet your friends with their Switch, which was the whole point of the second console, is to meet up with friends and play or whatever. And you can play together without having to have an internet connection, because this is a mostly online game. Mm-hmm. When it's kind of like the whole Call of Duty thing, like, yeah, there's a story mode and that's fun and fine or whatever, but at the end of the day, when that's all done, you want to get into an online match and you want to play with people.
Yep.
Like that's kind of what the game is built around. And that hasn't changed much still. The center of the game, literally the center of the hub city, is the online play thing. And you go there and you pick a gun and a couple of armor pieces or whatever, and you have at it and you have a ton of fun. And that hasn't changed much except for new weapons being added, and new, that's really it. New weapon. Oh, and new courses, new levels and stuff like that. And it's a lot of fun. One gripe I do have about it is there are different modes that you can play. There's Ink Turf, which is where you basically you want to cover the most level with your color. It's two teams, right. One, blue and one orange, and whoever gets the most wins. But then there's ranked mode, which is a little bit more. There's things like tower control, where you want to control this, tower, and kind of, if you control the tower, it starts moving, and then you want to get it. It's kind of like football. You want to get it to the other team's end zone or whatever. And then there's also kind of a King of the Hill mode, where you want to control this little point as much as you can, and whoever spends the most time controlling that point wins, and things like that. But you can't unlock that mode until you reach level 10 in online mode and in Turf War. I think I called it Ink Turf earlier. It's Turf War. Which is all fine and well, because that's not that hard to do. A couple hours. It helps you get good at the game so you don't just hop into ranked mode not knowing what you're doing. It's an interesting choice, and I kind of agree with it. But for the people that kind of like played Splatoon 1, you already know what you do and you're a veteran of the game, and all you want to do is just start climbing the ranks, it's a little bit of a slow start. So that's like a half a point away from the game, I guess. But then another big thing about this is playing with your friends, but you can't. And in Splatoon 1, you could build a custom squad where, like, if you had the game, you, me, Fraser, and my wife could all make it squad of 4 and go into ranked mode together, on TeamSpeak or Discord or whatever, and, communicate, coordinate, and totally wreck house. You can't do that in this game until you've played ranked mode, which you have to get to level 10 to unlock, until you've reached an overall B- rank. And you start at I think D or E or something. It's like grades in school, And so you have to play it a bunch before you can even play with your friends.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that.
Yeah, it is a little weird, and I'm not a fan of it either. I think it's stupid. Now, I'm not huge into ranked mode, honestly. I like Turf War. I just think it's more fun. Just the game mode. I don't care about being ranked or not. I like covering turf and splatting enemies instead of, controlling a tower. It seems a lot more open-ended and fun. It
seems like, and this might be a slight hyperbole, but it almost seems like a greedy way to do things, to where you're pretty much forcing your clientele to play the game more, to where casual players have no choice but to put X amount of hours in there just so they can unlock certain modes for when they have groups of people come over and they want to do things a certain way. Now that's a bit of a stretch, but it just seems like that's kind of the overall consensus of something like that. Like, I don't know why else you would do that. I get the earn your keep thing, but that seems weird.
I think this is what it is. One of the things Nintendo is not great at, and they never have really been great at, is online play. They're not good at matchmaking. They're notoriously terrible at, and that's not really any different, unfortunately, in this. And so I think why they did that is to make sure that you're not just getting into ranked mode and jumping in not even knowing how to play the game, because you're going to bring your whole team down. And if you do that, then you're, because if I'm in there and I'm like, all right, I want to get to B- so I can play with my friends, but Johnny Scrublord over here, who's never played the game, hops on and doesn't do a dang thing to contribute to the thing, I lose. My rank goes down because of Johnny Scrublord over here.
Right. And that makes a ton of sense, but there's been plenty of games that have the exact same concept that you are describing, to where you can only unlock it after you do certain amount of things. But if it was a sequel to the game, if it detects a previous save file of the first game or something before it, it'll say, hey, it detects this, you can override this if you want to, kind of thing. Because it understands, based on that save data, hey, you've played this before, so you know what you're doing. So if you want to, you can skip this quote-unquote tutorial part of things.
Right. Unfortunately, this game's on a different console, so you don't have that luxury.
Right. Which I understand, but like it's kind of like murky waters. Like, how would you bring something like that over? But it seems kind of like you said, that would be a kind of an oversight to not have anything like that, because that's just annoying if you are a veteran player and you just can't jump into what you want.
No, it is annoying because you it's just grinding. You just have to grind for it at that point, and it's a little obnoxious. But the game is so fun to play, though. Just to be honest, that I overlook it. And so getting away from that, there is a campaign mode, like a story, quote unquote, mode that actually, has to do with the first game. So you can totally do it without playing the first game, but it is kind of nice that like a lot of the characters that were in the first game kind of show up in this mode. And you get to see them again and see where they are now, 2 years later. and how things have changed. It's really interesting and cool. But then aside from that, there's this new mode called like Salmon Run, I think, which it's kind of like their version of zombies. And what it is you take a contract. The story behind it is you take a contract for this company that wants you to get salmon eggs. But naturally there's the salmonids, which are the creatures that lay the salmon eggs. They don't like that, and so they're just these mindless little fish that are trying to kill you, and you're just destroying them with your gun. It's pretty fun. I've not actually played it myself, but I've seen a lot of it streamed, and it's a lot of fun. And it's got like, it's just like zombies is in Call of Duty or whatever, where like, yeah, like level 1's easy peasy, but like when you reach a certain level and there's like bosses and all this other stuff, it's just crazy. Things just get crazy. And
all right, so we started you with a simple question. Now let me give you one that might be a little harder, at least to think about, because I know it's very difficult to make these kind of decisions because one kind of overwrites the other. If you can do this, what was better to you on launch day, the first one or the second one?
I think the first one.
Now, is it because it was original, or do you think it was just on launch day, it was just a genuinely better experience?
I think it's just because it was original. I think the second game is a better experience because there's more. There's different types of weapons that there weren't. When the first game launched, there were 4 kinds of weapons. On this one, on launch, there's like 7 or 8 and multiples of each. And so there's a lot more you can do. But when Splatoon 1 launched, because it was like this new thing, and I was just really excited about it. Nintendo isn't really good at coming up with new IPs these days, but hey, Splatoon totally just like took off. Splatoon was the first game to have come out in a long time where I spent the entire day playing it. I don't get to do that very often, right. But I made it happen. Like, it came out and I was like, I just love this, and I just kept playing it. I did have to stop playing it to go to youth group. But then when I came home, I just booted it right back up again. It was amazing. I played it for like 8 or 10 hours on launch day. It was crazy to me. Yeah, it's something I've not really done since, except maybe like Fallout or something like that. But
right, which I know that kind of comparison is hard to do because typically the original of a game will always have that, what I just said, originality.
Yeah, so do I think Splatoon 1 is better than Splatoon 2? No. But as far as like my experience on launch, yeah, Splatoon 1 takes the cake.
It was definitely better. For you personally, this is kind of a weird question, and it might be given that you said that you've not done that in quite a while, is this your favorite online multiplayer?
Certainly one of them. Probably at the moment, yes.
I know that.
And you know what? Even after Splatoon 1, kind of, because the way Nintendo does Splatoon, they've kind of created this to be normal now because they've done it twice. They released the game, and Nintendo has never been a DLC company until very recently. And so, they released Splatoon and they released Smash Brothers both within the same year. Smash Brothers had paid DLC that came out sporadically here and there, where you can get different characters, different stages, skins, etc., etc. Splatoon released, and then for a solid year after release, they just saturated it with free DLC. They were just like, here's new weapons. We just came up with these, and we want you to enjoy them. And, oh, here's a couple new levels. Here's a new game type. Things like that. And it was really, really cool. And Nintendo has already said they're going to do that. In fact, we've already gotten a new weapon. The game's been out at this point, not even a week. It's been out for 3 days, and they've already released a new weapon. So I just love that they do that,
Absolutely. And it brings up an interesting point, and that might be a good topic for a later date, but, because there's several games coming out these days that are starting to do DLCs in a different format. Specifically, what was a recent one? The Witcher 3 did all their DLCs for free. So, like,
The Witcher 3 did, huh?
Yeah, so like if you got the game, then anytime a DLC came out, you had access to it.
Interesting.
Which is interesting in a lot of ways because at the same time, I wasn't overly interested in any of them. So it's kind of an interesting parallel because just because they're free doesn't necessarily mean it's good.
Right.
There's, I don't know, that could be a whole nother topic. But I do like the idea of not DLC is not always costing something or not always waiting half a year just for them to come out kind of thing. Especially if they're some of those DLCs like we've talked in the past where it's integral to continuing the storyline kind of thing. Then you kind of get ticked off and you have to wait half a year, and especially if it costs a lot of money. And then you're like, okay, this is this is not cool.
Yeah, like I think timing is extremely, like waiting can be either really beneficial or it can be really obnoxious. Like for example, Breath of the Wild has 2 DLCs, one of which has already been released, and for the most part you can tackle in under half an hour because it's just like items. You just have to find the items and chests. And then there's this one extra dungeon called the Trial of the Sword where it strips you of all of your items that you've collected through the game, and you start with nothing, and you have to battle your way through this dungeon of progressively harder and harder enemies. So it's more of a trial. It's not really a dungeon. There's no story to it. It's just like, here's another thing you can try to do. But then there is going to be a story-related DLC coming out like this holiday season-ish, like the end of the year, maybe even early next year. And to me, it's like, that's just a long ways out. And like, I'm kind of like, I haven't really played a whole lot of Breath of the Wild recently because I'm done with it. I've beaten it. And I've got this new shiny Splatoon game to play. And then between now and then, like Mario Odyssey and Mario Raving Rabbids will come out. And then like all of a sudden it's like, oh, I got to go back to Breath of the Wild to beat this whole new thing. And I've completely forgotten what I'm doing.
Right. Which is exactly. That's kind of the hit or miss with DLCs. Why I wish they would kind of do them in different formats.
Yeah, but then the flip side of that coin is it's going to force me to pick up a game I haven't played in a long time and re-experience it, which I always have a good time with Breath of the Wild. And it'll also get a lot more people to probably buy and play it because they'll be like, okay, now the whole game is out. Now I'll play it. So
right, which is finding that meet in the middle between good PR and then good for the gamer as well. Kind of at least what we want. That's not necessarily what always happens, but
yeah, and it totally depends on who you are as a person too.
Absolutely, but that's going to be it for today's podcast, guys. I know it was a little bit of a shorter episode today, but
I was going to say, I guess I'm done.
I guess Jay's done now. But we're still got a ton of things that we're coming at you in the future, so don't be turned off by short episodes. Some will be short, some will be long. It's just a lot of it depends on our schedule and what we have time to do. And I'll take the blame for cutting off Jay. I have a bit of a tighter schedule today in our recording session, so I have no choice but to kind of cut them a little shorter.
So stop talking. Bye.
so it's totally my fault.
Question of the day: how much do you hate Matt? Bye.
Okay. Let me add something there because I actually had an interesting question of the day. Dang it.
Fine.
What online multiplayer in the length of your life, we'll actually say from birth to now, if you want to, what online multiplayer have you logged the most hours on?
Ooh.
And I'll start so Jay can think about it for a second. I'll give you my number 1 and my number 2. My number 1 will probably not be surprising to anyone. It is Call of Duty. I was a huge Call of Duty person for a long time, and not like the stereotypical like meathead, idiot person that was just cussing on things or anything. I just really like Call of Duty, and all of my friends played it.
It can be a very fun game. Like I know it gets a lot of crap for being like, a total jock of a game or whatever, but it can be a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, especially because all my friends played it, and we always played it together, and that was the best part of it is kind of the companionship and just making the memories and all that stuff.
What it's all about, man.
There's a lot of stuff that I'll always have that to look back on, and we had a ton of fun. And then the number 2, just to give myself a little shame and nerdum, World of Warcraft would be the number 2. So I have
nerd.
I probably have the 2 most stereotypical of the 2 options it could have been. But Jay, what is it for you if you know?
I mean, I don't know my exact hour count on Splatoon or one of my other ones, but it's either going to be Splatoon, Team Fortress 2, or GTA 5.
I would not have expected GTA 5 to be in that out of...
There's so much you can do.
I know that, but I guess in that category, it just didn't seem like that'd be something that would have outdone the rest of them for you. But
it's a massive game and it's a ton of fun. Anyway, that's it for this episode.
yeah,
Thank you guys.
That's exactly the point. He had a very interesting answer, and we like to hear yours. So let us know. Excuse me, got the coughs. Let us know whatever game you've logged the most hours in as far as online multiplayer. We'd love to hear it, and maybe it's a game we've never heard of. And maybe we ourselves will try it out. Who knows? But as always, thank you guys for listening. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe for anything about anything, even if it's not about this question. And we will talk to y'all next time.
Bye.